Late at night, I got a taxi after a long shift at work. The driver didn't speak much, just nodded as I gave him my address. Something about his face seemed off. His eyes were dull, almost lifeless, and his hands gripped the wheel like he was hanging on for dear life. I chalked it up to exhaustion and leaned back. The city lights blurred as we drove, but after a while I realized we were taking an unfamiliar route. "Hey, this isn't the way to my house," I said, trying to sound calm. The driver didn't respond. I repeated myself louder this time, but he just stared ahead, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. My stomach sank. I pulled out my phone to check the GPS, but there was no signal. Panic set in. "Stop the car," I yelled, reaching for the door handle. It didn't budge. The locks clicked shut, trapping me inside. I banged on the window, screaming for help, but the streets were eerily deserted. He turned down a narrow, unlit road, the kind you'd only see in horror movies. My heart pounded as I saw the outline of a dilapidated building ahead. He finally stopped, the engine still running. Without a word, he stepped out and opened the trunk. My blood ran cold. I fumbled for anything to defend myself, a pen, a shoe, anything. As I searched, the back door swung open and he lunged at me. I jabbed at him with my pen, barely grazing his arm. His strength was inhuman as he dragged me out of the car and toward the building. Inside, the air reeked of mildew and something metallic. Blood. The walls were covered in faded, peeling wallpaper and the floor creaked under our weight. He threw me into a dimly lit room where I saw a blood-stained table and rusted tools scattered across it. "Why are you doing this?" I begged, tears streaming down my face. He didn't answer, just stared at me with those empty eyes. Then I saw them, others, shackled to the walls, their faces pale and gaunt. They didn't scream or move. They just watched, as though they were waiting for something. The driver raised a knife, but before he could bring it down, I kicked the table into him, sending him sprawling. I bolted for the door, my lungs burning as I ran into the night. I didn't stop until I found a main road, flagged down a passing car, and collapsed inside. When the police arrived at the location I described, they found nothing. No building, no driver, no other victims, just an empty, overgrown lot. And the worst part? When I checked my phone later, I found a message from an unknown number. "You got lucky. Not everyone does."